This is my design for the 3D piece, and I split it up into layers so that way I can easily build up the mass. I cut my magic erasers to 1/2 inch thickness, and a craft knife is really good for this because you're able to do it in one swift motion. Then I trace all my stencil pieces and cut them out using an X-Acto or craft knife. Don't worry too much about rough edges, those will get smoothed out when you wrap the fiber. All the extra pieces can be set aside and used for add-ons to future projects as well. It looks pretty choppy right now, so I'm using an X-Acto to round things out and get it a little bit closer to the shape I actually want. I also cut the back at an angle so that way it wouldn't roll around on the table, and again, you don't have to worry about it being choppy. It's easier for me to wrap the aorta with the layers separate, so I'm going to go ahead and do that first. It's also really good to have some extra of the fluff coming down further than you need to cover, because you can always fix that later with your other color. And if you leave any of the magic eraser exposed, especially when two colors are going to meet, that will just cause the magic eraser to break down. So it's best to go a little bit over where you need, and then your main color can cover over that and give you a clean line. I'm using a little bit of extra fluff in between the two aorta to make sure that they stay in place, and that's kind of acting as my glue. Now I'm going to make the front part of the aorta that comes out, and so I've rolled up the roving and I'm just trying to get it into the basic shape I need for where it will sit. Now all of my layers are together and I'm wrapping the main color around everything. You don't need any fluff in between the layers. You just wrap all the way around, and this is where you can clean up some of those lines. Remember that the more you poke, the smaller the piece is going to get. So you also can create parts of emphasis or creases by poking in a certain area more, like I'm doing here with the crease in between the two halves of the heart. The veins on the body of the heart are made with very small pieces of roving. You want to get them very thin and twist it even, especially if you want it to kind of come to a taper or point. That just kind of takes some practice, and be very careful while you're doing that. To add the last aorta, I do need to use a little bit of fluff between the aorta and my heart body. I'm being very careful to tuck the extra in between the two pieces. I forgot about this pink blob here on the right, so I'm just carefully getting the base down. And to get the blobby texture, I'm rolling very small pieces of roving between my fingers and then just adding them on top and poking around the edges so that way it accentuates that texture a little bit more. When you're done, the piece can be a little extra fuzzy from working it, so using scissors lightly, you can kind of trim those bits off. That just helps to give the work a nice clean finish.